Hello there, I'm Preetha Manivanan and thanks for joining me this Wednesday on 7Edition. Here are your headlines. MACC reveals audio recordings of criminal conspiracy at highest level. Next, Iran fires dozens of ballistic missiles in retaliation to US killing of Soleimani. And also tonight, a Ukrainian passenger airliner crashes minutes after takeoff, leaving no survivors. Meanwhile, Malaysia Airlines said it would avoid flying over Iranian airspace following the escalating conflict between the country and the US. The airline also stated that it does not fly over the airspace of Iraq and its flights to and from London, Jeddah and Medina. In a statement today, the national carrier said this was to ensure that the safety of the passengers on board its aircraft was always maintained, which was the airline's top priority. It added that all its aircraft was equipped with satellite communication for immediate communication for any critical information and action such as reroute. The airline also performs active monitoring through its flight monitoring system and is guided by various assessments, including global security reports and notice to airmen by respective airspace control authorities. Malaysia Airlines is just one of a growing number of airlines saying they were avoiding Iranian and Iraqi airspace for flights to the region. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng says the government has an economic contingency plan in place to ensure that the growth is not disrupted by the US-Iran conflict. He also gave his assurance that the government can and will manage under current situation.
We have prepared a contingency
Definitely we have contingency plans. We have contingency plans if the trade war worsens. So definitely we will have we can adopt the same contingency plan. Because the biggest problem with the contingency plan will be, the biggest challenge facing us will be to maintain economic growth.
Lim said he believed the rise in oil prices will only be temporary. He explained that for every rise in $1 for oil prices, Petronas gains 300 million ringgit in additional profit. Currently, the price of Brent crude oil is trading at $68 per barrel and has been rising since the last 3 months from $58. Now, Shell Malaysia assured Malaysians that there would not be any oil supply disruption in the country following rocket attacks on the US military base in Iraq. Its managing director, Shairan Hussain, said Shell operates in a safe environment in Malaysia and will continue to ensure its operations run smoothly. He said the oil and gas giant's role in the country is to focus in ensuring the smooth customer service operations as well as no supply interruption. As tensions continue to rise between the United States and Iran, it is time to compare the military might of both these long estranged nations that have been nourishing an enmity since the last 67 years. Now, One Izul Islam takes a look at how exactly these two formidable countries go up against one another on the battlefield.
At face value, the two nations' military capabilities and economies seem worlds apart. The Global Firepower Index ranks the US as the most powerful military in the world, while Iran is ranked at number 14, below Turkey and even Egypt. According to research, Iran spent approximately $13 billion on its military in 2018, while the US spent a whopping $648 billion. The US government estimates there are approximately 600,000 active members of the Iranian armed forces and somewhat 500,000 potential reservists. By comparison, the US Armed Forces have more than 1.3 million active service personnel and more than 840,000 reservists. Now, according to Global Firepower, a military ranking website that provides analytical data of modern military powers, on the ground, the US is equipped with around 6,300 tanks and an arsenal of over 41,000 armored fighting vehicles loaded with self-propelled guns and rocket artillery. Iran, however, on the other hand, only about 1,500 tanks and 1,625 armored fighting vehicles loaded with just 570 self-propelled guns and 1,438 rocket artillery, much lower than the US. Now, in the air, the US still outnumber Iran with a total of 12,000 aircraft, including 457 fighter planes, 587 attack planes, and a flock of nearly 5,000 helicopters. Iran's air power consists of only 850 aircraft with 130 fighter planes, 73 multi-role planes, 52 attack planes, and only 324 helicopters. Now, most notably, the US dominates the sea with a navy consisting of 437 naval ships, 20 aircraft carriers, 85 destroyers, and 71 submarines, compared to Iran's 406 naval ships and only 40 submarines.
On to some local updates. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, today released a series of 9 audio recordings implicating former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib Razak, his wife Datin Sri Rahzel Mansour, and several high-ranking officials. MACC Chief Commissioner Latifah Koya described the content of the audio clips as shocking and alleged it to be a criminal conspiracy at the highest level. Latifah, in a special press conference in Putrajaya, claimed that the audio recordings contained conversations between Datuk Sri Najib and several others as they attempt to sort out the One Malaysia Development Berhad, 1MDB and SRC International scandals. She also said the audio clips were received from an anonymous source after the new year, adding that the alleged conversations on the cover-up took place between January 5th and July 29th, 2016. Among the conversations were allegedly between the ex-premier and former MACC Chief Commissioner Tan Sri Zulkifli Ahmad, a deputy public prosecutor then, who purportedly leaked information from the Attorney General's chambers on its probe into the scandals.
We have been given the recordings, but I won't tell you from where at this point. Pursuant to investigations, we can confirm their absolute authenticity. The contents are shocking. It's of cover-up and subversion of justice and institutions. In the public interest, we are making public the contents. We will now play the recordings to you. Bear with us, it will be roughly about 45 minutes of 9 sets of conversations.
Also identified in the audio clips were Datin Sri Rosma, UMNO's Baling MP Datuk Sri Abdul Aziz Abdul Rahim, as well as Datuk Sri Najib's former special officer, Datuk Amhari Effendi Nazaruddin. Also named were Crown Prince of United Arab Emirates UAE, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. Latifah also stated that the MACC will hand over all the audio recordings to police for further action.
Meanwhile, one of the explosive audio clips released by the MACC contained a heated conversation allegedly between Datin Sri Rosma and Datuk Sri Najib. In the recording dated July 27, 2016, Datin Sri Rosma can be heard shouting angrily at her husband, whom she called darling, to consult him on how to settle the dispute between 1MDB and Abu Dhabi's International Petroleum Investment Co. (IPIC).
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Can I advise you? Can I advise you something?
Yeah, hang on. Okay, anything?
No, you please don't listen to me. You know why? They tell you to slow down on Abu Qasim. And Abu Qasim is making statement, oh, based on Vienna Convention, ambil gambar dengan Pak Lahab. We are making him looking like a hero, and you are the villain, see? And all these 5 people, can they see that their first priority is you, not anybody else? You cannot. Maybe council should come here, and talk to you, and and Amhari separately.
Yeah.
That's how I feel, not just talking over the telephone, or it doesn't work, okay?
You can invite him here. Yeah, sure.
Invite him, sort it out once and for all, and put it in the culture. And he knows us, bukan dia tak kenal kita. Kau dah makan minum rumah kita semua.
You can take a guess what that was about. And then, of course, we looked at the conversation between Datin Rosmah and Datuk Sri Najib, in which he said he has signed the letter, and almost sounds like he was reporting to the Prime Minister's wife, and she was very upset with Abu Qasim, and then he immediately said that he has actually signed the letter.
Datuk Sri Najib has responded to the audio recordings released by the MACC, saying his lawyer will study the clips before contemplating further legal action against the anti-graft buster. He also questioned who had the authority to record his conversations, as he was the sitting Prime Minister 5 years ago.
Bahawa saya pada ketika itu merupakan seorang sitting Prime Minister, dan sama ada mana-mana pihak ada hak untuk membuat wiretapping conversation yang dilakukan oleh seorang Perdana Menteri, lebih-lebih lagi dengan ketua kerajaan yang lain. Ini boleh memberi kesan kepada hubungan diplomatik.
He was met outside the court during his SRC trial. Tan Sri Muhammad Shafi Abdullah said the release of the audio recordings would affect the trial and was contemplating contempt of court proceedings against the MACC for releasing it. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, Samsung unveils a super realistic digital people at CES 2020. The details after the break. Welcome back. The Kuala Lumpur High Court has freed Datuk Sri Najib Razak's former special officer, Rahzel Mansour, of 4 counts of corruption involving solar energy projects in Sarawak rural schools. He was acquitted by Judge Muhammad Zaini Mazlan after ad hoc prosecutor Datuk Sri Gopal Sriram informed him that the prosecution was withdrawing the charges against him. Now, last April, Rahzel was charged with soliciting and receiving bribes for himself and Datuk Sri Najib's wife, Datin Sri Rahzel Mansour, amounting to 5.5 million ringgit. Datin Sri Rahzel herself faces 2 charges of soliciting 187.5 million ringgit and 1 charge of receiving 1.5 million ringgit 3 years ago for the supply and installation of solar energy panels to rural schools. Datuk Sri Gopal had earlier told the court the prosecution would not be offering evidence against Rahzel and applied for him to be removed from the dock. This now leaves Datin Sri Rahzel to stand the trial alone. Perak police have smashed gang Ahliong believed to be responsible for a spate of housebreaking cases in the state and Klang Valley. This was following the arrest of 3 suspects, including the gang's mastermind and a woman aged between 38 and 41 years old in a raid at a house in Meru Valley, Jelapang on Sunday. Ipoh Police Chief Assistant Commissioner A. Asmadi Abdul Aziz said police believed they have solved at least 12 housebreaking cases, including the burglary at State Executive Councillor Paul Yong Chu Keong's home in Meru last year.
Kita masih jadi menjalankan siasatan berkaitan dengan penglibatan dia dalam kes melibatkan kes pecah rumah YB Yong tu. Sebab kita masih meneruskan siasatan berkaitan dengan ini dan kita mengharapkan sesuatu yang positif dari sebegini.
On December 4th, Yong said his house in Meru Raya was burgled when he was away in Kuala Lumpur from November 22nd to December 1st, where 2 safe boxes and several documents were stolen. The gang was believed to have been active since last year and would target guarded and gated housing area by identifying themselves as contractors before breaking the houses in broad daylight. Authorities also seized a white Honda City, 3 sets of fake car registration plates, break-in tools, cell phones, tablets, a laptop, gloves and a fake identity card. The case is being investigated under the Penal Code for housebreaking, which carries a maximum 14 years imprisonment if found guilty. Now it's time for Clickbait, where we take a look at what's trending and making the rounds in the cyber world today. Now, a man in Bangkok, Thailand, made a discovery in the loo, where he discovers a live cobra inside the toilet bowl of his home, and bravely enough managed to capture the daunting moment and share it on Facebook. Netizens were horrified at how the snake slithered its way into the home, while others warned to always check the toilet bowl before relieving oneself. Here's the story. Adisak Thanomsil said he spotted a highly venomous snake poking its head out of the toilet of his home in Nong Chok, as he suspected it swam up through the pipes. Clear markings on the snake show that it is indeed a cobra. Thanomsil claimed that it was fortunate that he managed to discover the snake before anyone else used the toilet. In his case, he was lucky enough to spot the cobra before he sat down. Otherwise, things would have gotten very nasty. That's scary indeed. Now, updated as of 7 p.m., here are the top trending topics and searches on the internet today. Let's take a break, and when we come back, how this sugar refinery is pursuing healthier options. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. It's day one of CES 2020, where all eyes are on the global stage for innovation. Avatars touted as artificial humans created a buzz Tuesday at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, US, even as debate swirled on what exactly the digital entities were. Star Labs, a startup funded by Samsung, showed the painstakingly detailed, all-powered, two-dimensional digital creations to a large crowd, saying they are able to converse and sympathize like real people.
So Cobra 3 can do what deepfakes or manipulation can do for sure, like long before. If you want to manipulate something, you can manipulate. But Cobra 3 has 10 times more powerful algorithms that can now not only manipulate, but it can create something completely new. And that is what the focus of the Neon is all about.
Hi, Monica.
The company says the technology allows for the creation of customized digital beings that can appear on displays or video games and could be designed to be TV anchors, spokespeople, or movie actors, or even companions or friends. While digital avatars have long been able to be programmed for specific tasks, such as role players in games, Neon goes further by enabling interactions that can incorporate human emotion. Although the artificial humans may borrow features from real people, each Neon has his or her unique personality and can show new expressions, movements, and dialogues. Bursa Malaysia slumps with global equities today after Iran fired missiles at U.S. military bases in Iraq in retaliation to the U.S. airstrike, which killed top Iranian commander Qasem Soleimani on Friday. The benchmark FBMKLCI fell 1.36% to 1,589.19 points compared to yesterday's close. On to stocks to watch. Gas Malaysia Berhad's earnings are likely to remain stable post-incentive-based regulation during regulatory period RP1, which commences this year to 2022. However, under RP1, making the gas cost pass-through mechanism no longer relevant, the additional margin from the shipping division will likely offset the lower regulated earnings from its pipeline assets. Next and last on the list. DRB Highcom Berhad has formed a strategic cooperation with the Malaysia Automotive Robotics and IoT Institute, MARI, as well as the China Automotive Technology and Research Center to develop the next generation vehicle hub within Malaysia and the region. This collaboration could add value to the group and provides a strategic platform to explore future development of Malaysia's automotive industry and perhaps translate to tangible gains in the long run. In this week's Corporate Kings segment, we take a look at how a major local sugar player, Central Sugar's refinery, CSR, is staying ahead of the curve. We met with their new Chief Executive Officer, Datuk Hishamuddin Hassan, and asked him how he and his new management team are making changes to ensure CSR's future stays sweet. Take a look. Datuk Hishamuddin has been at the helm of CSR close to a year now and has dreams of turning the sugar giant into a household name. Among the changes he has made is bringing a whole new team with him. He doesn't call them job interviews, but a chat to see if both candidates and the company are a right fit. He believes that cultivating the right team and getting everyone on board with the same vision and mission is important.
So in a typical chat, CVs you have, so I will go through the CV to look for the technical aspect, right? So that's when we say, okay, we'll have a chat. So during the chat, the technical stuff, apart from one or two questions that would just ascertain what we have in the CV, bulk of the chat will be spent on ascertaining or looking for attitude. The approach one have in doing one's job. So, for example, I always believe that at the junior level, the level of technical skills would be higher, would be needed. Then you need to have the element of the attitude and all that. Now, as one moves across the organization and when one moves upwards, the responsibility ladder, the attitude and the ability to work with others would have to be more than the technical skills.
Besides growing the team, he has to balance between spending on capital expenditure and ensuring their cost is low. Buying raw sugar in foreign currencies and being highly reliant on gas prices to process the sugar are two of his major concerns.
We committed about 52 million in terms of capex, and that's very, very heavy. And because the sugar price is very low, so our competitor, for example, is losing money. We, alhamdulillah, we are pulling in decent returns because we are very prudent in our raw sugar buying. We're very cost conscious in our operations.
Moving forward, Datuk Hishamuddin has tasked his team with developing healthy products and ensuring the company is sustainable. Yes, it is possible to develop a healthier sugar, as CSR claims to be the first sugar refinery in the world to introduce a low glycemic sugar as a healthier option.
Today, as we are aware, there's a huge awareness about health. Now, the question is, whilst it's still in the early stages, I would say in the early plus stages, it's not in the stage where, you know, everyone is looking at it, but a large number of people are looking at it, and you see there is a dawn there, there is a move there. So how do you now start to address that challenge? How do you look into your new product development, your R&D? How do you bring healthier options to the consumers as well as to the industry? So we're working overtime on that. Then the next challenge we have is, how do we remain ahead of the curve in terms of sustainability? And you know, you want to have sustainability, both health and sustainability, not because it's the trend, not because it's the fad, but because you really want to do it. You really like sustainability, you really want to ensure that you leave the planet for the future generation. So for us, in terms of sustainability, to address the challenge of sustainability is to address the challenge before it stares at you.
CSR already has the VIVE Sustainability Program certification to ensure that future generation to come is not affected by their manufacturing process. That's all for tonight. I'm Preeta Manivan, and thanks for watching and good night.